Hey, what is up, everyone? So today I want to go over story time. Kind of touched over it briefly in my 6-part series that I put up last week. If you haven't seen that, you go check that out. That is pretty much me just talking about how I went from almost going to prison to changing my life. So I kind of summarized that real quick. But yeah, if you haven't seen that, check that out. Today I'm just going to go over kind of like a story time in regard to a specific event that took place in that story time. And of course, apologize, my hair is like all messed up. I look crazy today. It's windy outside, it's a Sunday, so I'm not really like all into like looking presentable. So enough of that, let's get into story time. This happened in summer of 2015, so it's been a little over 10 years now. This happened when I was hanging out with some of the friends that I still talk to here and there, so they're not like the ones that had been arrested or etc. And of course my brother. So it was 4 of us. We were hanging out, we were skateboarding, just enjoying the day. It was hot outside, nice. I'm 19. I'm 19 now. About to turn 20. So graduated the year before, not doing much. I'm on probation, so I can't really do anything in regard to can't apply for college. I couldn't find a job, so I'm just hanging out, I'm skating, summer, doing my thing. We're just skating. So I'll just kind of, I don't want to use real names, so I'm just gonna just give everyone I'll refer to my brother as my brother, so he doesn't care if I'm listing him. So, but my other 2 friends, we're gonna name C and J. So, we have pretty much with both of them and my brother. We're skating, just doing some new things. I was pretty good at that point in my life. Excuse me, I'm tired as hell today, but yeah, we are just doing our thing, skating, and learning new tricks. I was pretty good. Again, it's pretty good. We were all pretty good at that point. So we were, this is like peak of me, like skating all the time. Like, I've been doing it for years at this point, and I would do it for a few more years after that. So, yeah, we're skating at this old. Nowadays, it's not a movie theater anymore. Not a movie theater anymore. Now it's a apartment complex. But it used to be a movie theater and a parking garage here. We're in Bridgeport, Connecticut. So it's Bridgeport. Comes with what it comes with. So in that sense, crime. But we're in one of the better neighborhoods. But summertime, so things can happen anyway. Yeah. So we're skateboarding again. Go back into that. We're skateboarding, and next thing we know, we were like so into it, and then we see a group of kids, bikes. Some were all older, some were younger. Some were like my age, maybe 19, 20, 21, maybe 22. Some were like 12, 13. All on bikes. So 13 of them, 12 boys and a girl. And we don't know who the hell they are. We're ignoring them. They're just passing through, doing their thing. At first, we're doing our thing. So they come up to us, they use right away, old excuse, one of the oldest excuses in the book in terms of, street code. What time is it? Now, I don't know if people still use this. Again, I don't do any of this anymore. I don't hang out on the streets, but back, to some of y'all, I may be old, some of y'all may be young. Back in my day, 10 years ago, people used to do this thing, what time is it? So when you ask somebody what time is it on the street, you're essentially trying to not only distract them by getting their phone out or their watch or whatever, but you're also trying to gauge and see if they got valuables, such as a phone or a watch. I used to have this friend who used to say, carry a beeper with you, because they don't care less about that. They don't want that shit. Or carry like a Walmart watch or something you get for like $10. But yeah. So we're like, what time is it? One of my friends, I'm the one who's like got the most like street smarts and knowledge at this point. These are like friends who aren't really too much into that. But they sell weed, but they're not really like going out there doing crazier stuff like I did. This hence why, I'm kind of like still cool with them till today. Oh, sorry. I didn't get enough sleep. But, yeah, so pretty much what they're doing now, these two kids, they're telling us, what time is it? The rest of them stand behind us. One of my friends, he starts pulling out his phone right away. I'm like, yeah, I already know what's good with this. I'm like, F this shit. I pick up my skateboard, I swing it right at them. Thankfully, I missed them, but I really, at first, wasn't even attempting to do that. But yeah, I swing it right at them, and I had a knife on me, so right away after that, pulled the knife out. Skateboard in one hand, knife in another. And they already were going at this shit. They wanted our stuff. I already knew it. And they surrounded us right away. That was it. They surrounded us. They were like, give me our shit. We want everything y'all got. And like, no. Fuck y'all. You ain't getting shit. And all the four of us, CJ and my brother, all posting up. Either with fists or skateboards at this point. There's 13 of them. Even the girls. The girls actually, like, appearing to be braver than the rest of the dudes she was with. Later we kind of find out this was the East Side Boys. That's the name they called themselves. They went around terrorizing the city for a span of a few days. They were even on the news. They went into neighboring towns, breaking into cars, properties, just petty theft, street robberies. They didn't have weapons, so I guess that was good on our part. But we were heavily outnumbered, 13-4. So, we're posting up, swinging. I'm swinging. I got my board in one hand, a knife in the other. I'm posting up. I got 3 of them coming at me. We're holding them back. We stood there anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes. Time just blew past us. We're posting up. We're just swinging. And, a couple here in the air, we were making contact with them. But, we held on our own. They were outnumbering us. And they were trying to pull a full encirclement on us. But the thing is, I study a lot of military tactics. I've never been in the military. I have some health issues that prohibit me. I met with a recruiter in high school, and I also was approached by a recruiter, one from the Marine Corps, one from the Army. The Marine Corps was in the mall. They approached me when I was a lot younger. When I was like 16. But I actually, when I was, right after I had been arrested, I was actually considering trying to get into it, but I have issues with my knees, arthritis from skateboarding, unfortunately, soccer. I also have asthma and some issues, mental health wise, but they're not serious, but it was bad enough to where I couldn't pass the fitness exams. But enough on that. I've had family members that have been in the military. I've always had an interest in it. So I like to study, I like to read the books on like the tactics, famous tacticians like Napoleon and Grant from the Civil War. So I'd read these books and I'd study like how to defend yourself in battle, like the proper techniques. And so I was like, okay, they're trying to pull full encirclement on us. So we back up. We gotta keep it spreaded. We have to keep the line open. Not only a line of escape behind us, but we have to make sure that they can't pull this encirclement. If they get us into a circle, we're screwed. We're done. So, we have a lot of space here. I mean, we're in a parking garage. So, being in this parking garage, we're in the middle of it right at the moment. And they're pushing. They're trying to pull in right away, like storm in there, run, just jump us. But we're keeping the line open. My brother's here, my 2 friends, we spread it out. We're keeping a huge spread here. And there's people walking by there. A lot of people, in this neighborhood, they don't want to know nothing. They see you getting jumped, they wouldn't call the cops, and they're terrified. So there's people walking around acting like this is, everyday occurrence. But we're holding the line pretty good here. They literally are barely landing any hits on us. We're landing a few hits back on them. Remember, we have skateboards. They're pretty much like a shield. And the knife, this little knife that I got, is keeping them back because they're actually pretty terrified of it. One of them even made the attempt to throw one of their bikes at us, but it missed us. We have a skateboard, so that shit comes, we're like, it's kind of like the Captain America shields through it. You're like, but yeah, pretty much at this point, we're getting backed up to point where we're kind of close now to the doors of the movie theater. So we're getting pushed back, and we don't have much room left. And then out of nowhere, I think it's got to be about 20 to 30 minutes now after this started, all of a sudden this big truck pulls up, one of them Garda trucks, because I guess they come now at this point, they just so happen to pull up, and they're going to the theater, assuming to pick up money or whatever. So all of a sudden I heard sirens, but I'm thinking it's the police, but there's this Garda truck, and he pulls up, this middle-aged guy, he's screaming out the window. He was like, yo, stop that shit right now, what the F are y'all doing? And he's just hitting the horn and sirens. These kids aren't phased. Once they actually started to back up and run, but when they noticed it was not police, they came right back. They were like, fuck that, they don't care. This is an armed security guard from the Garda company, but they didn't care. He got on his radio right away, though, I noticed, so I'm assuming at that point he was calling the police or something, supervisor, whatever. I'm not familiar on how that procedure goes with them when they're in issues, but he gets in. He's just sitting there, like, pretty much with the truck faced at us, hanging out the window, screaming. He's still on the radio. We're still in this whole combat phase because these kids aren't backing up. Like, they're threatening us. Fuck y'all, we're gonna kill you. They won't give up. So at this point, we're still held in our ground. We're not giving up. I've been with these kids before. I know, we may be outnumbered, but we're not gonna give up. We're not gonna let these kids rob us, beat the shit out. We're not gonna do it. So at this point, we're like, you know what, we gotta make an exit here, because we're gonna be stuck here all day. Eventually, they're outnumbering us significantly. They're going to storm. We're getting pushed back. No one's gonna come for us. We got people we could call, but they're not gonna come. It could take half hour, an hour. They're not coming right now. And a lot of people aren't coming by car. They're gonna be coming by bike, by foot. So I'm like, debating. It's quick. Should I make this phone call? Should I call some people up who have to call other people, who have to call other people to get over here to back us up? Or do we have to bolt? We have to get out of here. So I'm like, we're gonna have to bolt. We gotta retreat. We've held our ground long enough, but now we have to get out of here. Because this guy, they clearly don't care about an armed security guard. Movie theater security, we're pretty familiar with that area. They didn't come till like 5 o'clock. I mean, it was like afternoon time. So we ain't sitting here for 4 hours for a security guard. I ain't calling the police because I'm on probation. So we ain't doing that. So you know what? And we're like, we gotta bolt instantly, split up, but in the same direction, because they all can't come after. They're all gonna come after anyway. We're all pretty fast. We're skaters. We deal with this shit all the time. We're skating, pushing. We're pretty good. These guys are on bikes though, so remember that. So instantly, I'm like, let's head to the main street. So if they're gonna jump us and they're gonna get us, let's get onto the main street where there's dozens of people around. So we bolted. We just, we picked us up and we bounced. We're running up this main street. It's called Brewster Street. We're running up to the Fairfield Avenue, and we hit the intersection. And they're still chasing us, but we actually got ahead of them, spiked them beyond the bikes. But we get to this main street now, and all of a sudden, we hear sirens. So at this point, these kids are still like, fuck y'all, what are y'all running for? We're gonna get y'all. And mind it. At this point, there's we kind of identified the leader of this group. I would say he's got to be anywhere from like 18 to 22. He was doing the most talking, right in his mouth. And he had like a subordinate, another guy. This dude was like, I would say maybe about 18, curly, like blondish hair. He was light skinned, maybe like mixed. Later, I'd see him years later, like 4 years later, working at a McDonald's, but that's a different story for another time. He was scared shitless because me and my boys, we rolled up. It was 5 of us at that point. He was by himself at work. That was different. That would be years later. But for this specific moment, yeah, there was the two guys that we kind of identified who were doing like the most talking and kind of like running the show here. But yeah, now we're at this main street now, Fairfield Avenue, a whole bunch of stores and shops, people around. There's two groups of people screaming and yelling. Hear sirens in the background. Next thing I know, 4 or 5 cop cars. They come. This group instantly disperses. We don't, because I'm on probation. We run. They chase us, and it's all over for me. I'm going back to jail, and I'm probably going to be serving, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, because I've had these charges that were. I was not supposed to get rearrested at that time. They gave me this program that they have in Connecticut, and if I fail this program, I'm done. So I'm standing there. I was like, don't run to my guys. Just hold your ground. So we're at the intersection here, a 4-way intersection, and we're not running. So we're pretty much like a block away. It's a long block, but we're a block away from the movie theater. So I'm like, don't run. Let these dudes run. So they start taking off running, and there's cops coming from all directions at this point. So I'm assuming that guy or somebody along the way called the police. Now the guy at the movie theater, the security guard from the guard truck. So at this point, I'm assuming yes, call the police, and the police come. Before you know it, there's probably about 10 cop cars. I believe they got 1 or 2 of them. They kind of focused. I don't know, for some reason they focused on they dispersed. A lot of them went in different directions, all towards the same area, but they kind of split up. Mind you, if you know this area, there's actually 3 ways out of it. There is Long Street, as I mentioned, Fairfield Ave, but one goes into the neighboring town of Fairfield. If you're committing a crime, you don't want to go that way. The town next door, the police are a lot more on top of things than they are in Bridgeport. Then the other side goes into Bridgeport, and that's on Fairfield Ave as well, where is the most likely escape route, because there's some housing projects that you can kind of hide in if you go that way. And then the other route goes to Fairfield as well, the one we came from, where the movie theater was, which is, again, will lead you to the same problem. So there's really only one likely way, which all of them went in that direction, but in different side streets to kind of escape. And I saw one of them right away. They swerved in front of him, and he hit the car with his bike and literally flew on the hood. They got out, pulled the guns and arrested him. And I, as far as I know, they started chasing the rest of them. I don't know what happened with the rest of them, but I do know for sure one of them got arrested. They came up to us. They were kind of hostile at first. The police wanted to know what was going on, but we told them. We had the guy, the guard at truck. He'll tell you what happened. We were just skateboarding. They came up on us to try to rob us. Of course, I made the first swing, but I didn't say that. They made the threats at first. What time is it? And give me your shit. And I was like, fuck this. And I made the swing with the skateboard, but. Of course, they robbed us. They tried to rob us, and I just reacted in self-defense. Essentially, you just tell people in this situation, I feared for my life. I had to defend myself. They were gonna kill me, and they were gonna rob me. That's what covers yourself. And yes, they, just pretty much asked if we wanted to ride home. I'm like, nah, I don't want to ride home. I just want to go home. I want to walk home. And they just let us go. They told us, all right, you guys are free to go. Got our information, of course, which was kind of sketchy because, again, being on probation, I don't really want my name on these reports. But we weren't in trouble, thankfully. We were able to leave, and that was that for that moment. I kind of just finished the story because this correlates into it. Yeah, so I go home, and literally 30 minutes later, the stragglers that didn't get caught literally were coming up the street. They had literally stayed in the area, so I think there was 7 of them now, down from 13. One got arrested, as far as I know. Maybe the rest got arrested or got away or whatever. But 7 of them came back down the street I lived, and I was literally in my living room, and I heard them screaming outside. They had just actually went to one of the neighbors' yards. I live not too far from this movie theater. I live 2-3 blocks down the street. So they literally went into a neighbor's yard and stole shit. He came out in the neighborhood yelling, and these kids were just taking off on bikes. I'm like, you know what? I just lost it. I literally I went out in the garage real quick. I grabbed a huge axe and I started chasing these kids out in the street. These kids took off in such fear, talking shit, of course, but I chased them all the way up the street with an axe in my hand. Because I'm defending my property, I'm defending myself, I'm defending my honor. I'm like, fuck these kids, I'm taking them down. And I literally chased them up the street with the axe, a huge axe. I still have the same axe today. It was actually one of my uncles that had passed away when I was like 2 years old. So the axe is actually like a family value thing. He wasn't like biologically related to me as an uncle. He married my aunt, but I guess they brought the axe. The axe is from like Sweden or Norway. It's real old, from like the early 1900s. But it's a big axe, and I was just chasing them out the street with that. But yeah. We would have more encounters. We would have technically two more encounters with this group of kids. We would lead them to another showdown before we would stop seeing them. But they all kind of correlated. And I'll kind of go over that in another time. Because that was actually the next day. So this battle technically wasn't over. It would go on another day. I call this the Battle of Black Rock, even to today, because this was like a real life battlefield. Like this is like literally shit you see out of the movies. But I'll go over that in another video, because I'm already like 21 minutes into this video, and that's a whole nother day and a whole nother like explanation. But yeah, I mean that's essentially how that went. I mean, it's like essentially, like I said, something out of a movie, but I mean, these are just the things that I lived through from the age of like 12 up until I was like 24. Yeah, but that's that for that story time, and I'll go over. I know my camera I'm on like kind of sucks. It's like on my phone, and I literally just decided to start doing all these story times and stuff. So of course I'll upgrade some time here and there, but I kind of just want to, I'm getting older. I'm 30 years old now. There'll be a time in my life where I forget these things and I forget details. So I want to kind of get those down now while I still can remember. But yeah, till next time, and I hope all y'all take care. Have a great day, and I'll talk to y'all later.